Hi guys, this is the first in a series of lessons where I'm going to teach you some of the principles of architecture. So when you're architecting applications, these principles are really important to bear in mind to make sure that you're able to build an application that performs well, that scales well, that has redundancy and so on. So the first one is stateful versus stateless applications. Now, by the way, a lot of these principles apply to applications whether you're in the cloud or not. But I'm going to show you how cloud computing really helps you to build many of these architectural principles into your applications. So firstly, stateful versus stateless applications. So let's just understand what this means. So an example of a stateless application would be a news website, maybe a news website where you don't log in, you don't record information about yourself. You literally just go to the news website and you read some news articles. So the person checks the website. In this case, no state is recorded about the user's session. So the user has gone to the website, they've looked at a few articles, but there isn't any information recorded on the news website about that particular user. So if that user goes to another computer or even just checks in later on that day, the website does not change because it's going to just present the same information. It doesn't know anything about this user. It hasn't customized its response or customized the content that it's going to present. On the other hand, we have Netflix. So in this example, someone's logged into Netflix, they've watched a movie or two, and then Netflix will record information about what has been watched. So in this example, Netflix is stateful. So it's recording information about the user's session. It knows what you've watched, it knows stuff about your behavior, what types of programs you watch, and it's going to use that to recommend things to you in the future. So let's see how this applies to applications that we're building. So we might build a free tier application, which has a web server, an application server, and then a database server on the back end. So in this example, the user is shopping using their browser. And so they've added some items to the cart. And that's actually recorded often in cookies on your computer. So there's some information about that session stored on your computer. But what about the actual web server? So the web server may not store any information about that session. It's being stateless. So the information is only stored on the user's computer. However, if the user then purchases the products, the application layer will then process that order. And it's going to record the information in the database. So the application server now knows who this user is because they've logged in maybe with an ID, and it knows what they've purchased. So it's not going to, for instance, recommend them to purchase the same thing again. And it's recorded information about the order in the database. So this is an example of stateful. It does know what's happened. It knows who you are and what you've done. It's recorded some information about that session. So that's important to understand because in the cloud, we often have a combination of stateful and stateless services. The great thing about a stateless service is if this web server actually fails, you can get directed to another web server. And also you can have scaling where you have multiple web servers and you load balance to them. So you send traffic to different web servers so that you can scale your web application. And it doesn't matter which one a user goes to because no information about that user session is being stored on the web server.